And
Yeah.
we are going. Hey, everybody. Today we are talking with, what is your rank, sir?
Sergeant First Class.
Sergeant First Class Larry McCracken. And we're going to talk to him about his experience in the military and, how we do here. So, you know, what were you doing before you went into the military, Larry?
I was a high school dropout, got in there running with the wrong crowd, and got into drugs some and whatnot. And I decided that that was just not what I needed to be doing with my life. I woke up one morning, looked up in the mirror, and I was just like, I gotta make some kind of change here, or I'm gonna be dead or in jail.
You're taking them or selling
Taken. I've never, dude, I'm 5'6" and I was like under 100 pounds. I would have been the worst drug dealer ever.
them? What about your early life made you go down that path? 'Cause I know I was a fellow high school fuck up too. I know why I did it. What happened with you?
I don't know, man. It's, you know, like my dad was a good guy. He worked hard, tried, but he had his demons. Alcohol was one of them. You could blame a lot of it on divorce, but you know, I could have I don't know. I think some of it was personal choice and then being influenced just by older kids and whatnot in a group wanting to be cool. Just fell in with the wrong crowd, man. You know how it goes. You know how it goes.
Where were you living? Where'd you grow up at?
Southern Georgia, Meldrum and Rincon, Georgia, right outside of Savannah.
Yeah, my mom's from that area, or was from that area. All right. So what was the incident that made you decide on the service? Was this something happened or it just popped in your head? What was the incident, the inciting incident?
Well, I'd completely sobered up, went and got my GED that February of '99, and I was working two full-time jobs, killing myself as a 18-year-old. Yeah, it's like an 18-year-old shouldn't be working 90-hour weeks, but I was pulling it. Um, and then my sister's father-in-law told me, "Oh, what do you think about the army?" Like, what do you mean? Just like he explained to me what all, that could come from it, a new life, being able to, rebuild and have a future. And I was like, I'll talk to a recruiter if you sit with me. So we called a recruiter that day, showed up at my house a couple hours later, and the recruiter asked me, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I just want to blow shit up." So he told me combat engineer. Oh, that's what we are. Doug's a combat engineer too, explosives. So, and that's how I got in the army. That was my wake up moment. That was like, you know, I could actually do something with my life.
Wow. So when you first got there, what was the biggest shock to your system?
Oh, when we first got the basic,
Yeah.
uh, well, I don't know if they do it anymore, but like, it was the most horrifying moment of my life was we were all standing with our duffel bags and the drill sergeants come in with the big shiny aviator glasses and that hat. They had us all lined up as Fort Leonard Wood in October, but it was still hot. We were in this room. There was like 100 of us piled in there with our gear in front of us, and we're standing at attention. They showed us what it was. They didn't say a word to us right away. That was terrifying, sheer terror. They got us on the cattle trucks, and oh man, then they did a shark attack when we got off the cattle truck going to basic. So everybody gets off the truck, and here they come from nowhere, yelling, screaming, "Move, move, move!" That was my introduction. I was like, "Oh my God, did I make the right decision?"
Okay. You got any questions, Doug?
So when you first got the basic, right? Did you say you from like Southern Georgia, right?
Yep.
So what was it like for you? Because I'm assuming that where you grew up was it very diverse.
It was black and white.
Okay.
The other races, there weren't too many of them. And honestly, it
So
was
now
black and white
doing
folk.
basic training,
Everybody.
you got everybody.
And
How
and
was that? Was that a culture shock for you, or
but I wouldn't say a culture shock because it was more instead of about race, it was more about where people come from because city folk were different from where I was. There's
right?
a different way of looking at it. And I had slices of everywhere. And I like to think I have ability to like anywhere I go, I can get along with everybody. So
Yeah, I kind of figured that out at some
yeah,
point.
yeah. That I'm never out of place. And I actually thought it was the coolest thing ever, you know. I actually went, meeting friends. My battle buddy was from Puerto Rico. And he was telling me about life in Puerto Rico, and we're still great, good buddies till this day.
What was the hardest thing about basic training?
Ooh, I had to get tough because, like, living through the kind of life I had before that, I was a little emotionally weak, and I was physically weak. I was like 103 pounds, I think, when I got to basic. So I left
Wow,
basic at 135 pounds. So
wow. And what was the you're a combat vet, right?
hmm
Yeah, I mean you blow things up. So what was your first experience like out in the field?
like actual combat or like Iraq first tour. I went
Just
four
the first
times.
time you went out and you were out in the world and you were through it basic and you just doing the thing. What was the first memories you have of that?
Like after basic and get to the unit.
Yeah.
It was culture shock. That was actually shook up a little bit because I wanted to be I had a chip on my shoulder because I was a failure and I wanted to be the best at everything I did. So I tried overly hard at a lot of things and I didn't want to be perceived as a dirtbag or whatever by the other guys. I wanted to be respected. So I came in kind of hard and tried to learn everything I could and do everything I could. So that was the first step to the unit. And what I found was like the team leaders, sergeants, staff sergeants and everything, I would take extra time when they were breaking apart. For instance, I remember this bringing this up is why I went there. It was like my first week with my unit and they were teaching us to take a heavy machine gun apart, a 50 cal. I went they made it look easy and I wanted to learn how to do it. So they were done with everything and I made them sit there with me for about 15, 20 minutes after until I had it. That's just the kind of guy I was when I came in.
So it sounds like based on your struggles at home, it helped give you some really defined structure. Although you sound like you started to pull it together, even though working two full-time jobs is a hell of a way to pull it together. But you
Yeah.
started to pull it together. But it sounds like the armed forces gave you a little more
Oh yeah.
clear, purposeful structure because just working jobs that don't feel like purpose.
No,
But
no, not at
yeah,
all. It feels like you're getting ground into nothing and for what end result, you know? It's like I'm killing myself. I can't keep doing this at the pay on both of these jobs and be successful or something. I need another tool in my rucksack to be a success.
So now that you made to your first duty station, you and I both know that in the army or in the military itself, there's alcohol and there's also drugs. How did you avoid being that that's something that you indulged in previously, how did you avoid staying away from those type of things?
Oh, it wasn't, honestly, it wasn't hard for me at all to stay away from. I drank socially. I never got out of hand with my drinking because my dad was a drunk. So, not saying, not just destroying my father, but that was that's one of his faults was he liked alcohol and it didn't take too much to make him mean. So, I've never been big on getting out of control. Um, And then with the drug thing, there was no looking back. That was not an option for me to even entertain that idea. To this day, I'd have nightmares about, you know, being high or whatever, and it's been 35, 1999's last time I did any kind of hard drug. Like actually 1998, because I'd clean up by then. So, and I still have nightmares about, oh my God, I got this government job and I woke up and failed a piss test. All through the army, I had dreams like that. Just because, I saw what it did to people. So it never was a thing for me.
Interesting. As a fellow son of an alcoholic, and I think generation of men before us, especially if they came from, it didn't matter what, not so much your ethnicity plays a part, but if you came from like a humble beginnings kind of a family, like lower class, middle class family, a lot of those men were hard drinkers. And I know that most of us kids, we go one way or the other. You don't like being out of control about anything because you've seen your father that way,
Yep.
or you lean
Hmm.
into it and you try to do it, So that kind of thing when you're dealing with your father's that memory of your father's stuff, I get it. It puts you in a certain mind state. Even the thing you said about when you got to the service, you wanted to be the best at stuff. You wanted to go hard at everything
Mm.
because there's like this. It feels like there's this
I just call it the chip on
discipline
the
thing.
shoulder. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this discipline thing. And again, those men, like you said, I'm not trying to tear down my father. That man could work like a dog and still come home and drink a fifth. And I just never understood like why he was punishing himself like that.
Yeah.
Now, as I'm older and I'm a grown man myself with
Mm.
kids and all that, I get it more. But
You get what he was dealing
that
with.
Oh yeah.
yes, especially in those times. So that experience of dealing with a father who went through those kind of this is where I was going with this, who went through those kinds of ups and downs. Because I don't know about your dad. My dad, when he was sober, most hardcore, straightforward guy in the world. When he was drinking, all bets were off. So, what was it like when you started dealing with superior officers, where that discipline is steady all the time? There's no ups and downs. It's just consistent, and I ask because you're dealing with other men who are coming at you where there is no. Um, Ironically, sometimes when your father's drunk, you get to be an asshole.
Yeah.
You get to take a. It's a weird thing. You get to take a break,
Yeah.
right? In a weird kind of way, babysitting. But
So so for me with the officers, the structure was good for me. Uh where I ran into a problem with the discipline thing, and this I don't know if this is a common thing, but when my dad would drink or he had emotional problems anyway. He's a good, and like I said, I'm not saying my dad was a horror. He was a good man. He just had his stuff. But when I would mess up, it would be over the top. Like the repercussion for making a mistake was intense. You know what I mean? And when he would drink, it'd be more intense. So, like this whole thing to this day, through my entire life, I have like this fear of failure because I feel like the repercussions going to be drastic. But as my time through the army went, I learned that messing up is how I get better. You know what I mean? Making mistakes. So that was my one hiccup with the discipline thing was, because I was afraid to fail, and that affects me and that'll affect you on written tests, that'll affect you on any evaluations, promotion boards, anything you do in your life that there's a potential of failure. And what it does is it makes you focus on the you could fail rather than the task itself. And that's how I had to reprogram my brain to go focus on the task, not the fact that I could fail.
Interesting. So, the first time you found yourself in a combat situation, what was that like for you?
Oh, I remember this. So it didn't get to bullets going down range and all, but it was on our convoy up, first Iraq tour. Um, we were convoying up with the headquarters element because we didn't take our bridge layers, AVLBs. Any vet that sees a stream that knows the Army knows the automated bridge layer, AVLB. They didn't take them through Iraq, so we're on this convoy and we have a vehicle breakdown and it stops us. And it's literally in the middle of the night. And we're all dismounted, pulling security. All of a sudden we hear some Arabic voices, shots going off, and then they put us all down in the median of the road. And I have this palm tree right here. And I got my weapon on the side. And at that time, for some reason, the headquarters element didn't want us to have a round chambered. They wanted to chamber when you got started. I was like, nah, nah. I went ahead and wrapped one in there. I was like, I'm gonna be ready if something comes out of these bushes, and it kept getting closer. There were shots going back and forth. I swear to you, I felt like I was hopping this far off the ground with my heartbeat that whole time. And I could not shrink enough behind that palm tree. That palm tree is right there. I wanted to be a part of it. It's like I didn't know what was coming my way. And then all of a sudden this Abrams comes rolling in on the other side of the road because there's two lanes and two lanes, and it comes over and starts scanning the tank. You can hear the jet engine whining, and everything got quiet. And even though that tank was loud, is that was my first like potential combat experience. It was that that adrenaline dump was crazy. So,
Interesting. So, how long did it take for that hard rush of adrenaline to calm down as you started working more?
uh,
Or did it ever
uh,
calm down?
you're always going to get that adrenaline rush. You're always going to get that rush, and you're always going to be scared. Yeah, I don't care if somebody tells you they're not scared. I think they're just like some people might not be scared, but it's I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that nobody has any fear because no fear. But it can the adrenaline can you feel it surge up and it'll start tapering off a little while after, and you're like, whew. Sometimes it's like you'll even if you got through something tense and really intense. I mean, you've seen the guys get the post-fight cries like they get in a fight in the street or whatever. Then adrenaline up and they're being the tough face, and they're seen guys get that too afterwards. It's just a reaction. But I think when all that adrenaline's coursing, a big thing that I had to learn is how to control my emotions during it, and I had to focus on my task because you know the combat environment is an infinite uh, delivery of what ifs. You're gonna have what if this happens? What if this happens? You have to focus on this is what my task, and you have to pick a decision and make the best decision possible under that strain, under that adrenaline, and just live with it. Because a thought out. I mean, you may only have seconds to make a decision, so you have to make a decision. It's how you deal with it. So I hope I didn't go off track of what you were
No, no,
asking.
it's fine. So that comes down to really relying on your training.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And you'd be surprised what comes out. You may not think you're the best soldier in the world or whatever, but there'll be that moment where it pop back in your head and like, oh, and you just do it instinctively. Like that's because we worked on it years ago. It's still there. So then you're like, oh, I actually did that. Okay, cool. I'm better at this than I thought I was.
So speaking of, so what was like your high point in combat where you really felt like you kicked ass and did your job as well as you could do it? Was there like a main moment?
No, because my theater was Iraq, so there was really no sustained firefights. It was like these little quick ambushes. Um, so it wasn't like a sustained bounding on somebody moment or whatever, or you know, I think the longest firefight I probably was in was we were on a river mission, uh, and this was my first tour. We were in these boats pulling outer cordon because the infantry were going to hit the houses in Samara, and the engineers were patrolling the river and make sure that the guys, they called them squirters, that didn't shoot out the back of the buildings and try to get away. And we got ambushed when we were taking the boats up. So that was my longest combat engagement, and that was like that was crazy because we're stuck in the middle of the river in this boat, and you got 2 feet paper thin aluminum rails. Like that's not stopping anything. Soon as it starts opening up on a first boat, a guy gets hit through the hand, and they push out of the area. Our boat was like damaged or something, so we couldn't get out of the area quick enough. I'm right here. Me and my squad leader have rounds going in between us. We're engaging. I'm sitting there on a knee, and I've had this saw in the river for like 2 days. It's a M249. I couldn't get it to operate while I'm being shot at, so that was scary. And then an RPG comes up and hits the post over the top of the head, ricochets off, and then blows up in the water. If it had been, I actually had the picture where the fin hit the post on top of the boat. If that thing would have hit that post right there, it'd have been donezo, for us sitting in there.
Wow.
And
Wow.
that was my first and longest thing. And I'll tell you what, I'll never forget the way I felt that night to the day I die.
Which was what,
Um,
if you can articulate it?
well, I'll tell you what, the first thing I felt like time slowed down. That it felt like 2 hours. And it was like seconds, you know what I mean? And I had this feeling of helplessness because every time I'd rack the charging handle on this and I'd put the weapon up to fire, nothing would happen. So I'm sitting there working with a 249 that it just wouldn't go. And I'm sitting there, couldn't retaliate. It's like being punched in the face and can't hit back. And
So
it's
I have a
hard.
military question in reference to that.
What's that?
I said I have a military question in relation to that.
Yes, sir.
Why did your 249 not work? Did you uh do your functions check on it? Did you
We
make sure
did
you had
we
it?
did all that stuff, but
Okay,
then
okay,
again, we'd been on mission for 48 hours straight.
okay.
We
So it might have
weren't we
got
weren't
wet. You didn't have a
I
chance to
got
clean
wet
it.
that day or whatever. So after we parked the boat, we actually went back through it again. I mean, it's just one of those things that happen in combat. I mean,
Yeah.
Tell the
it's
civilians what a 249 is.
it's a squad automatic weapon, assault. It fires the same weapon as our standard assault rifle, the M4, and standard issue weapon. Back then it was M16, but little small cartridge, high volume of fire, probably around 900 rounds a minute. So it's made to be able to lay down fire, and that's what I had that day. So my
Wow.
PCCs were done though, fool.
Okay.
Doug getting sergeant over there. Um, um, so in terms of combat, what was your lowest moment in combat?
uh, Lowest moment. I think it was September 1st, 2008 when our buddies got hit in Mosul. We were doing route clearance and we weren't allowed to roll tracked vehicles anymore, like tanks with tracks, because it was starting to be that Operation New Dawn. Actually, I'm making sure I don't have that mixed up. It's been a couple years. It's 2008, so 17 years ago. I got to think about it now. September 1st, 2008. Yeah. Well, regardless, we didn't have any Bradleys in our section at that time. We were just rolling wheeled vehicles for our route clearance patrol. Route clearance is finding improvised explosive devices. So we use binoculars, cameras, whatever, and then if you see something out of place, we go up, interrogate it, make sure it's not a bomb. Well, we get into this crowded intersection. It's a four-way, and we're trying to push through. And they have these anti-tank grenades. They cut the parachute off the back of it because they're made to tip over like this when you throw it, and it shoots a charge down into the top of the tank because it's weaker up top. They cut the parachute off so when you throw it, so it'd be like this with the face going directly forward, and they hit our rear vehicle with two of them. And I don't know, that was the first I'd seen guys hit before, but not four of my good buddies like in that shape. And one of the guys, he's no longer with us. He passed away in 2016, but he'd lost a leg from that day. And then it was crazy. I ran back to that vehicle. Me and the guy got out. They threw. We had a couple rounds go through the convoy. Somebody was taking a pop shot. Somebody threw another grenade and went off on the side of the road. But it was these teenagers shot out of a crowd while we were held up in traffic, threw these two grenades and went back in. So you can't even retaliate because you hit a bunch of civilians. Go back there, guy screaming, and we're getting a driver out. We go to lift him up, and his legs caught, but so much of his legs gone. When he lifted him up, it started spinning his whole foot around there. So I grabbed it, pulled it back out, straightened it back out, and I was on the wounded leg. So I had two guys on his shoulders, one guy on the thigh, and I had one thigh, and I just remember like his muscle like hitting me right here and then on my vest, his thigh muscle, and it was just nuts. We got him to the vehicle, you know, and I always we got him back within the golden hour, but I always fault myself because I didn't. That's the point I learned tactical patience, and I didn't grab the med bag when I went back there. I just reacted. So. you know, we didn't have there's a litter right there we could have put him on. We could have tied him down. And I see these mistakes, and that's one of those learning things. And I was like, what if this guy would have died because I didn't think these things through? But, but so we got him up to the vehicle, put him in the back of the vehicle. We had him sitting up. I was just going to medevac him sitting up. Both his feet were facing to the back door because we had a door to open out like that. And I was just going to put him in there sitting up, facing back. We had a tourniquet on him. We're gonna just drive him to base like that, and then the QRF, Quick Reaction Force, came and helped us, and we put him in a proper ambulance or a Bradley fighting vehicle or whatever, and got him to base. That was a low point because four of us got hurt that day. Medic had both the inside of his legs blown out. The gunner had shrapnel and everything on his forearms because he was on top of the vehicle. Uh, Charlie lost his leg later. He got hit through the ass cheek and in the thigh, and Charlie actually passed away in stateside. And then the driver, he lost his leg as soon as he got there, and there wasn't much blood. And I was like, so I thought we did good with stopping it, but come to find out, he was bleeding inside his pelvis cradle. So if we wouldn't have got him there in time, he would have bled out because it cut the femoral artery and retracted up. So we actually got him back in time. They got that all tied off. And that's from what we were briefed in the way I understood it. So that was a low point. Going back into base, my driver's being uh he was he's tearing up a little bit, and I had to, be Sergeant McCracken and be like, hey, we're good, we got it, we're gonna get back to base, and had a couple of tears rolling down my cheek. And that was hard. That was my lowest point. But I'll tell you something that came out of that. Our commander made us go out the next day and drive like right back through that same section. And maybe that lowest point became a learning point for me in life because we just I don't know if we would have been the same if we didn't go out. We went right back through that route the following day.
Put
They
you
gave
right
us a
back on
choice.
the horse.
Yep. So that's something I took from my life. So yes, that was my lowest point, but to this day that you brought out one of my high lessons learned there. So
When you fall, get up quick.
yeah, this has
Wow,
been the
man.
story of my life, especially post-military.
That's
I
what I
know
was
it was
going to
I
ask.
know it was your job, but I'm sorry you had to go through that, man.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen stuff like that on the street, but it's a different situation, man. What were you gonna say,
Wow.
Doug?
Uh, I wanted to ask you because I know you had 4 deployments, right?
Hmm.
So that was your first one. By the time you made it to the fourth one, were you, you know how you get to a point where it's just, it is what it is? What would you say the difference between that first and that very last one in terms of the person you were?
Uh, I was by the time the fourth tour came around, I was just ready. It's like because I always felt like I'm not a religious person, but I was put in positions to be able to learn something from each engagement or whatever we got in. I talked about that medevac. I reacted. I did not grab the trauma kit or I forget what the bag is that had a litter in it. I just reacted. I didn't do that. I didn't stop and think. So each time you learn a little something, and I just felt like that experience made me a better leader at that time. But I will say in my fourth tour, about 5 months in, I started having physical effects on my brain. Like I got medevaced out of there. I think it's from repeated blasts or whatever. Um, I
TBI.
was, yeah, I was passing out in theater. I was hitting the floor. So, or not like fully going out, but it would the tunnel would go dark. My hair and fingertips and feet would get tingly. It was bad enough they sent me to launch still. That I had a lot of uh, the CAT scans, MRIs, and all that stuff, and they had me so doped up on that flight back. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't even drive when I got home for like 2 months.
Let
To
me educate these people really quick. So when you in theater, like over in Iraq, Afghanistan, stuff like that, he said lawn stool. So what normally happens is if somebody's injured or they suffer any type of injury or whatever, what happens is they'll get you as stable as they can while you're in theater, wherever you may be, say in Iraq in this particular case. Once they have you stabilized, they put you on a bird, a plane, and they send you to Landstuhl, Germany, which is where like a major hospital and stuff like that.
yeah,
Once you get there, then whatever your injuries are, whatever you pretty much be there for a
I
sustained
was there
amount
for
of
like
time. Now,
3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks now, if the injuries are even more serious, say for instance, you were a burn patient, once they get you stabilized there, then they're going to send you to San Antonio, BAMC, Brook Medical Army Center there. Now, for a lot of these people that lose limbs and stuff like that, once they
Walter
get
Reed.
them how they are there, they're going to send them to Walter Reed in Washington, D.C. So it's depending on the type of injuries that you sustain will depend on where you go. Or some people, probably like him, once they got him launched to and got him stabilized, whatever, they send him back to Iraq. They send him back to theater.
Wait, so I, if you're having a condition like that that's affecting where you're, blacking out in theater and things like that, why would they just send you right back?
They didn't they sent me to do all the tests. They got me out of theater. They sent me straight from Iraq to Germany,
Okay.
like immediately. I went in one night and it happened, and then the next night I was just sitting at the table and started feeling that tingly feeling. I kept closing my eyes because everything was getting dizzy and whatnot. Um, and then they sent me to launch still. Then they sent me back, and I never they never did send me back into theater, but Yeah.
What did they diagnose you with?
Well, it was TBI and all, and then there was also a reaction to like behavioral health. It was a big bad thing because I had a reaction to medic behavioral health medications I was taking, you know. So there's a lot of stuff goes wrong when you get, you know, see, prior to that tour, I had 24 months, two 12-month tours and a 15-month tour. So 24 plus 15, so 39 months of active combat time before that tour. So I was already needing counselors and I was on behavioral health medications and things like that by that point.
So when was there a moment where you decided to call it quits, or does it, like how did your mind just get to the place where I'm done?
I never called it quits. They sent me out of that theater, they told me I had to go. And then when I got back, I did the best I could to recover. Um, Took some time to just chill out and had like 90 days where I didn't drive, and I just phone call into work, and then I had to report into the duty station. My wife would drive me in, and I'd report in. And then I started functioning with the unit maybe after 3 months after being back. And I almost got chaptered out medically because I was coming home from work one day after I'd started driving. I hadn't had an episode in a while, and everything started tunneling in, and it was daylight. I got out in my driveway. I uh, I opened up my truck door, and I stepped out, and then next thing I know, I'm laying on the driveway, and it's dark. I crawl up the steps because I'm dizzy as hell. I beat on the door, and my stepdaughter comes out, and we call my cousin, and they put me in the car, and they take me to Evans Army Community Hospital, and they were going to chapter me for syncope. That's like passing out and all that stuff. And chapter is like a medical separation for military, but I survived that, and I went on to continue my career in the military, but it got danger close. So
How many years did you stay in?
20. That was
I
at like year 10 or 11 that happened.
what was your most out of all the times? What was your most rewarding duty that you've done,
Uh, Rewarding duty.
or where you were stationed?
Could it, there's a lot of cool combat stuff that we did and all that, with the combat engineers who going in buildings and doing all that stuff. But I found a niche in the Army being a Bradley Master gunner.
Okay.
And that was the proudest achievement of my entire life. I think I was the 21st combat engineer to ever graduate that school.
Okay. So I just want to educate people again. I try and get so master gunner is I actually went to that course and I did not make it. But the course is really hard. You have to learn about all these weapon systems. I'll let you explain that a little more. But one of the reasons that I didn't pass through because I was set up for failure. I just heard one day I was going, and the next week I was there. And I get there and I figure out all of these guys with all these different weapon systems had months and months of train up. And I had like, it was crazy. But anyway, explain to them what a master gunner is.
It's it's a position. The one side of it is a position that as schedules and maintains the training all the way up from a PT test to a live fire exercise with Bradleys and explosives and tanks on a range. So we could build ranges out of nowhere, you know, using surface danger area diagrams, make sure we're not going to shoot into public or things like that. That's the technical side, resourcing, developing the training plans. The other side is the being a subject matter expert on a Bradley fighting vehicle, which you go through training hands-on, a lot of different things. And I mean, it, that it was 5 test Friday every week you're in there. I think there's only two times. I think it was during maintenance phase. That's where you're learning the mechanics of the vehicle. And like when you're in the field is when you don't have a test on one of those 5 tests on that Friday. But it's very, very arduous school. Teaches you everything down to nut, every nut and bolt on the 25 millimeter gun on a Bradley,
Mhm.
tow missile, 240, everything. So it's 14, I think it was 14 weeks of hell, maybe
And,
11, 14
and
weeks.
before that, you go to what's the previous school? That's the one I went to. Previous school where you get all the small weapons, the 249, the 240,
Yeah,
and they
see,
would
I didn't do that. I just went straight to Bradley Master School,
okay. I
Bradley
went to
Master
the
Rifle.
other one. Okay, well, I got them mixed up, but they
Yeah.
would break these weapons, and you have to go in there and figure out what's wrong with it. I was good with the book technical stuff, but trying to figure out if you got something lodged off in the weapon or whatever. Oh man, yeah, it was something. But yeah.
So when you started out, did you plan to be in 20 years? You just fell in love with it?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I was like, dude, I'm a loser. I need to fix myself. I told myself I'm gonna go in. And I always looked up to soldiers anyway. So this wasn't just a me thing, by the way. It was I always living being in around Savannah, we have Hunter Army Airfield. When I meet somebody in the Army, I always looked at them like they were above me. And I wanted to be that guy eventually. And so that it was either that or a rock star, and I wore a uniform, so you see how that turned out. But but
Wow.
so I said I'm going to go in. I'm going to do my 20 years. I'm going to get my retirement, and then I'm going to get out and go to college. So
Well, just for the record, old habits die hard. You ain't been a loser in a really long time, my friend. You served your country for 20 years and you saved
Yeah.
people's lives. You've done some really impressive stuff. So stop. It's sometimes, it's the things you say to yourself. I know that's where you feel like you started, but that is not who you are anymore, my
oh
friend.
no, no, I can hold my head up high, seeing what um generations of my family came before me, and where we're at now, because we were poor. We were shrimpers and things like that in South Georgia.
Hmm.
We didn't have much.
So let me ask you, what's one of your most funniest moments or one of your most times that you had a lot of fun in the military? Because people don't know it's not always about work. Like sometimes you get with your buddies and you really have fun. It's one of those memorable type moments.
And you want me deployment or
No, outside deployment, not deployment, just garrison, just
oh God, man, we used to there was so much like we'd get off work and when we lived in the Long Bay barracks, like all the doors would be open to everybody's room and everybody would be drinking, you know, and big parties. But I'll say, like, toward the end of my career, when I was with you and iBay and everybody, when we
oh, yeah.
when we'd go to New York and spend time together, because we had a unit in Queens. We had a unit in Queens we had to train. So they'd send us to New York at least once a month. And
Mhm.
where they had us staying in Queens originally, we thought we were going to get shot on the way to the damn car.
Hey,
So
hey,
so
hey, I'm from Queens.
yeah, hey, there's the whatever part of it they had us in, we're like, we ain't doing this again. So me
Yeah,
and
we had to move to Manhattan.
we made the move to
Why
Manhattan. I
Queens
was
ain't
like,
have y'all in? I feel bad. Like my neighborhood wasn't welcoming.
no, fuck no,
It
man.
wasn't too far from LaGuardia.
I felt like the Army should have issued me some 9 mil rounds and a sidearm,
Oh
man.
wow.
But
Oh
but
man.
some
We don't try to be that mean. It's just a lot of different areas.
yeah,
Hey, listen, I
those
got
were
a funny story about those times. So what basically happens, we were training reservist units, right?
Hmm.
And here's the crazy part. They
Which
started kicking,
armory?
I'm sorry.
Which armory? Were you at the armory? Where were
It
you
was
at?
a
Fort
few of them.
Totten.
So we had all of New York, we had units in Staten Island,
Fort
Queens.
Totten is where we went.
Well,
Me and you were Fort Totten.
yeah, Fort Totten. So, but the funny part was we're sitting down in the office one day and they're giving, like some people had Las Vegas. They were giving out states. Nobody wanted New York, right? So I was like, New York's like my second home. So I'm like, I'll take it. You know what I mean? Everybody look like, you take New York? I'm like, yeah. So we would go there once a month, and sometimes we might be there for a week or more, just going out every day, like training these guys. And then at the end of the night, we'd go back and back to the hotel. And then in the nighttime, we just did whatever we wanted to do. So we go places to eat. But one of the funny moments was, uh, remember you remember Sony night, right? Anybody that's a musician, they have Sony night where they have live performance and stuff. So I still have
KP?
friends and connection in the music industry, and they had this one particular thing at the Sony night thing. Ron Grant was holding it. It was in Harlem, so I planned on going. He wanted to go, and one of the other guys wanted to go. So I'm like, all right, but everybody was like, nah, man, we going to Harlem. They didn't want to go. I'm like, trust me, man. Y'all with me, you're gonna be good, right?
I was good with it, man. I
Yeah,
wasn't
they were
worried.
good with it. But the funny part is when
Oh
we
my
walked
God.
into the venue, right? It was all like Latino, African American. They were like the only two white guys there. So
Everybody stopped and
everybody got
freaking
quiet. Everything
looked.
just stopped.
They stopped and looked. That's one of the funniest moments in my entire life because they thought me and Faf were the cops. That was one of the.
That's so funny. You know, what I will say about Queens, at least in Queens, it is probably the single most diverse uh, city in the world.
Mhm.
And we also have a whole lot of ghettos, but inside all that diversity. But at least in Queens, we all used to everything. We in Queens, you grew up with everybody. So
Yeah.
it's like you guys go into the military. Queens is like you got black, white, Asian, Latino, Indian, whatever you can think of. We got it in Queens. So that's one of the upsides. That Harlem thing though, they're not really used to seeing the white folks up
Well,
there that often.
but
Yeah,
that's
not at
what
that
that's
time.
the
So
thing.
they thought they was cops, but when everybody found out, like I was like, oh man, they just think y'all are
They're
cops or whatever.
soldiers. They're with me.
But an hour later, this guy's jumping up on stage.
Hey, I got
Everybody's
pictures
buying them
of
drinks.
I got pictures of me singing with the subway guy on that night on the way back. There was a guy, he was up there
Oh
preaching stuff.
wow.
I was like, for loads I'll shipping. So we we when we have our downtime, we'd have fun. But I will say that's one thing about the army that I got from all this is like like the rest of the world is so hard. A lot of the racial issues and stuff in the world, I'm not saying they don't exist in the army, but it'd be me, Watts, and Ronquillo, a Mexican, a white guy, and a black guy walking around together. You know what I mean? Hanging out off work. It didn't matter, you know? So I will say that that's a little different from the military to civilian side, is being in the civilian world, people care a lot more about little things than we did in the army. It's like are you my brother or are you not? And in the real
Yeah, I was
world,
gonna
it's
say
like,
you guys are saving each other's lives, so you don't got time to
yeah,
worry about nonsense. Y'all all doing the same shit together.
yeah.
So
I don't care what color, height, whatever. I don't care if you're blurple, man. You know, it's like in the military, it didn't matter.
as long as they got your back.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one of the things appreciated about it because all those fun times, we always learn something new about somebody, man. You know.
That's the same thing that a lot of us get from team sports. You start to learn like if you're on my team, you're on my team, and all that other stuff is it don't matter. You guys play the ultimate team sport for life and death, so another level up.
Yeah.
So so what made you finally retire?
I had a back surgery. Uh, I in 2017, I said that was the last time I was going to compete for Master Sergeant. The promotion from Sergeant First Class to Master Sergeant. You have to put in your records, picture, go through a board, and they send it in. I didn't get selected in 2017. And I was like, I'm not gonna do it again because if I get picked in 2018, if I get selected, if I went through it, it'd take me out to 23, 24 years for mandatory service time after you get promoted. So I said I'm not doing that. I'm just going to go out at 20 as a sergeant first class. And like I said, you know, I had a lot of, I still suffer through a lot of behavioral health stuff, and then physical stuff. Like I had a back surgery, my back is still trash, and it's just breaking down. So it was
So
just
so so what was that? Even before we get into the health stuff, what was the transition like? Just coming home and being quote unquote normal all of a sudden.
it was like euphoria was done for the first week, and then you dip. There's like a dive. It's like it's a hard crash on your head. Um, and I didn't know it, but I didn't know how many of us struggled with that. It wasn't a month and a half back. I was having to go through Army channels to get a new counselor and get things set up and things like that because I just got depressed. And then I'd already been struggling with stuff like that, so and it was my German Shepherds come down and hang out with us. But it was trying, man. I had to find new
It seems
purpose.
it seems like a lot of you guys who make a career of it, that transition out is really hard for you guys.
Oh, it's like the bottom falls out. I always I told this to Watts and Faf when one of our friends got killed by a drunk driver and we met up and went to the funeral. I told him it was like we were having a beer and a conversation. It was like wearing this big heavy backpack. We call it a rucksack. And you go along and you just take it off. And you're like, oh, it's great, it's great, it's great. And, but then you realize all the damage that's been done from walking so long with it. Because you feel good for the first 15 minutes and then everything else just starts falling apart. So
That's an
So
excellent
how do
analogy.
you how do you refocus and find since when you got into the service, you were looking for purpose and you found it because you stayed for 20 years. How did you recalibrate to find new purpose after, or have you found new purpose after?
well, I went into college, started doing that, and then I started working at a ranch and uh for a hunting out and fly fishing outfitter. And I was a fly fishing guide. That was my plan. And I started doing trips for healing waters, like a lot of at-risk veterans for because our suicide rate's through the roof. Um, and so I was really, really involved with the Project Healing Waters and stuff, like donating trips, having guides come out. They'd stay on the ranch and we'd do stuff like that. And that's how I kind of gave myself that purpose. But there's a story to go with this though, because I went from the facilitator to the what word do I want to use, Watts? I went from the facilitator to the person in need, I guess, because
Mhm.
November 5th of 2022, I almost killed myself. I was at the
Mm.
ranch. I was at the ranch, and I what caused it is I was on a medication called Lexapro, and I didn't know that I built up a tolerance to it. And for me, if I don't have medications with everything that we've lived through and stuff, it's like when I get down, I can't come back up. It's like medication like a body armor for me. So uh it just started getting hopeless. It was dark. I mean, uh I was in my cabin one night and I was just like, I don't know if I could just take this anymore. So I filled my dog's bowl up with dog food, and grabbed my gun. I took my phone and I put a mark where I was going to go because I was going to send it to everybody to where to send the cops. Um, and then I sat on the couch for a minute, and then my hound dog jumped up in my lap, and started scratching at me, scratching at me. And then I picked up the phone and I called my cousin. I was like, I'm freaking out. And he told me to get to the hospital. So I took myself to the hospital. Or I had one of my coworkers come to ranch. They took me to the ER. Spent 3 days in a mental health thing. And like it was that recovery time was bad. It got to the point some nights I was so out of my mind I'd sit in the bathroom of my apartment in the corner. It was dark. I'd take all my clothes off and I'd just cry. I don't know why. I didn't feel safe. I didn't, it was just like it was a hole. And I started so I got into counseling and went through like 10 different medications changes because I wouldn't sleep. I have to take trazodone or I don't sleep. And I have a CPAP machine, so I'm like Darth Vader and medication and all that stuff. So that's how life is when you go to sleep at night. And and I started getting counseling. I started going to and then April 4th of 2023, it was like the 6 month anniversary of that, or April 5th. I started losing my mind again and I almost checked myself back in. And then I went and signed back up in Taekwondo because I've been in and out of Taekwondo my entire life. And I actually started doing martial arts again, even though my body doesn't like it. It hurts me. And started building myself back, got back in college, started engaging with my family more and doing the counseling and stuff and just trying to rebuild my whole life. And that wasn't the first time that happened though. In 2018, I got that way when I was working with Watts up in Fort McCoy, and that's when I volunteered at a dog shelter like 20, 30 hours a week just to try to save myself, save someone else. So I always try to find outlets. But that last break, like my confidence was shattered. I still have effects from that. It's just like I just melt down for no reason. Uh, and
I'd argue you have reasons.
yeah, and and then I had another bump when I blew my ACL out. My knee came apart. I couldn't do Taekwondo.
Okay.
I thought I wasn't going to be able to keep working out and keep my mind moving and moving forward, but they let me do assistant instructing, and I've rebuilt my knee back since, and I'm at a different Taekwondo school now. And I actually just took state this not last weekend, the weekend before. I just won state in a 40 and up class. So
Congratulations, man.
yeah, but
That's ironically, we got stuff in common aside from alcoholic dads. That was my discipline too. I took I stopped a while ago. It's hard. Taekwondo is a little bit hard on your body because it covers all the. I don't know if you've ever taken it, Doug. It covers all the skill sets. So you do a little bit of everything with Taekwondo. You're hand to hand,
depending
grappling,
depending on
kicking.
your school, my school is strictly Olympic sport. Taekwondo, so like boxing with your feet. It's what you see in the Olympics. So we're foot
Gotcha.
focused all the way. But
And that's hard.
yeah,
the, the
but
the kicking,
yeah,
Doug, between you know what it is? If you should take a class, like a beginner's class. If you got any issues with your hips, ironically, I think it'll strengthen your hips because the sheer
uh,
amount of kicking that you do. Woo!
but yeah, I don't know how we got
Maybe
all the
something
way
like
down.
that'll help my back and my knee issues. I got
No, I
I don't know
struggle
if
with
it's
my
gonna
back.
help
or not.
exactly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's a
I don't
good
know how we got
discipline.
all on down that road, but I guess we were just kind of talking about the crash out after you get out of the military. But But
No,
yeah,
we let the road go wherever it goes. So now that you got your knee rebuilt, and thank God for dogs. I love dogs, man.
yeah,
Pets. They know something about you. They sense things about you that you can't even sense in yourself, man.
yeah, my dogs are my kids. My German Shepherd, I have two pillows. I got a pillow behind my pillow he sleeps on, and the hound dog, he sleeps down by my wife's feet. So
Not a
we're
dog
under a
person.
blanket. Yeah, my
Yeah,
hound dog's cool. And I
The,
have two horses.
good
So
on them.
the last dog I
Oh
dealt with was
wow.
Beeper.
Oh wow, man, my dog, man. Come on, don't get me. He already got me tearing up over here. Don't get me into my dog, man.
yeah, I didn't mean to get too heavy on y'all. It's just this is kind
We
of
let it go where it goes because this is the stuff people need to hear, man. People need to hear your journey so that they know they're not alone in the journey and that
Absolutely.
you're dealing with same stuff as they're dealing with. And again, civilians like me need to hear these stories so we know what you guys are doing out there on behalf of our preserving our constitution and way of life.
yeah.
Um, and right now, these days, people need to understand that like the Constitution don't preserve itself. Our way of life is taken care of by you guys. So, um, like I said, you can go wherever you want to go with it, and I appreciate you going there. How do you feel like you are making progress towards getting
Yeah.
away from having those slips?
Yeah. I mean, there's uh, like Taekwondo takes a toll on me, but for instance, it helps me. Like my wife pretty much said it's mandatory at this point. My horses. That's why I stayed in with horses because I had to learn when I was at the ranch, I didn't know anything about horses. And the manager quit and I took over a hunting outfitter that thing, not knowing anything about a hunting outfitter and did it successfully for 3 years. Uh, I learned how to pack mules and ride horses in 90 days. Not saying I'm a show rider, but I go over mountains with mules and get a dead elk out and bring it back with, two or three mules behind me while I'm riding a horse. So learned that in 3 months.
I feel like everything you do it to the nth degree. I think that's just who you are.
Yeah.
That is who you are. But I'm glad you're here. You're still here with us and doing this interview. And I'm glad that Taekwondo got you back in gear. You're making me think about getting back in the saddle.
Yeah.
And
It's and uh, things have changed for me since that time frame. Like there's stuff I can't handle. Like when I was in the military, you can ask Mr. Watts over there. Like when it came to multitasking and planning and all that, there's a lot of stuff that I was just off the charts with because of the master gunner thing, to being able to put shit together at the last minute and handle it. But some of that could be a little overwhelming for me now. I have to step back and reevaluate. Uh, like there's times I call it the bad movie reel. It's like in your mind, sometimes you'll get on a bad thought, and it's like a movie reel going, right? It goes and
mhm.
goes and goes, and then you get on another subject because of that movie reel. It's like you're chain watching shows on Netflix, but just all sad shit, and you keep going there. And I have to learn, and something I still struggle with, to step outside of myself and be an observer and alert myself when that's happening. Like, oh, this is just my way of dealing with this. Like the bad movie reel's playing again. I need to stop this because I know where this is going to take me. And I told somebody about this recently, and this is something about the share that I've never really. I mean, I think I've told my wife and maybe two other people on the planet. But when that starts going, I have to think of it like a mechanical function to break that chain of thought, or it becomes so much on me I can't shake it. And I picture I started this in Wisconsin, but the fast food Chinese restaurant boxes with the fold up top? It's got the four sides that
I've
fold
heard
and
of it.
close.
Mhm.
For some reason, one night I was starting to get bad. I was starting to get bad off. I was like, I got to stop thinking about this shit. I got to stop thinking about it. So I started thinking about just closing one of those boxes. And I keep closing that box until I could think about something else. And when things start, it's like a mechanism now for me to be able to step aside when I know that this thing's starting. I can think of this physical and mechanical mechanism, and it distracts me from that long enough to know that I'm starting to go downhill. And I use that to this day as like a mental function to be able to be the observer, not the participant.
It sounds like a form of meditation.
I don't know what it is. It's just something I picked for myself just out of sheer
No, yeah,
desperation.
I think my limited understanding of meditation, I think that you created a meditation for yourself, which is, like a lot of times in meditation, they'll have you focus on a flame or something so that you can stop all that other thought. Just focus on this thing. And for you, it's the Chinese food box.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna make
I
that
know that
Chinese food
sounds
box in my
crazy,
head.
but
No, it doesn't sound like it. Just
but uh,
if it works for you, it ain't crazy.
I've been using it for 7 years now, and it's just something that randomly I just thought about one night, and like I said, I'll just close that box and because once you start going down that hill, for people that have a lot of issues from deployments and things like that, it's hard to come back up the hill. So if you stop yourself halfway down, it's easier to come back, and that's why I do it.
That's good at life. That's good life advice for everybody. Because we all get in our head about things and start spiraling. Well, you know, a lot of us do. Um, and the military rate of suicide is really high. The rate of male suicide is through the roof. Period. Because because to the world, whether they want to admit it or not, we are disposable. So you have to find ways to be your own help a lot of times.
Yeah.
Because there usually ain't no help coming. But always remember, you know, call your brother Doug, call some of your other brothers that know it, that was in it with you,
Bro,
and
Doug's had a
just
lot of
just talk it
uncomfortable
out.
phone calls with me through that time frame. I wasn't
He's a
myself.
good man. Well, I'm glad Doug was there for you. And always make that call though. Always make that
But
call.
but see, that's why we're Darren and I are doing this because there is a need for this. Where people can come in and provide a platform where, for one, they can express themselves, and also other vets out there, regardless of the branch you served in, can come in and hear these stories and realize that they are not alone. Because for so long we're grouped up together, but then once you retire or once you get out, it's kind of like everybody's off in their own corner and not even realizing that we're going through and experiencing some of these same things. And maybe we can reach enough people to 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 kind of save lives,
Yeah.
and to help. Hopefully, just we can just knock a notch off of that and help improve, or decrease the suicide rate by providing things, a platform like this for vets.
Yeah. I when this started happening to me, I don't do social media right now. That's another side effect of this. I'm not on Facebook and all that, but I was for a while there when this first when I went through that thing. But I was posting about progress and about going through everything step by step till I stepped off of social media. I decided to be very open about it because I don't know, that's just trying to help somebody. If I mean, if yeah, I did. No, I'm to the point now in my life. I'm 44. I really don't care what anybody thinks about me. But when I got a couple of messages back, and when I say couple, I mean like 4 or 5 guys that from military experience and all said that they got help because of what I posted. Uh, so who knows? Maybe I did save somebody's life, or at least I helped them in some way just by sharing what I went through.
Absolutely.
You definitely saved someone's life in real time. And in terms of this virtual stuff, I think your story will help a lot of people because again, I feel like in general, men have a tendency to go insular.
Hmm. You have to have that tough outer exterior. And
I
I
call
was
it
saying,
suffering in silence.
yeah, but I'll say I've always been a little bit of an oddity with this because I'm kind of a weird personality. I just don't really care about anything. So I'm pretty much live. I'm a big goofball. So being the alpha male stereotype has never been part of my personality. So
Well,
Oh, there you go. Took a minute for my headset to get my other one died. What were you guys saying?
I was just saying, like with that male veneer we have to live up to. I've never
Yeah.
really prescribed to it too much because I've just always been pretty crazy. You can ask Doug about how we were at work. I'm a bit of a wild man, so I didn't really care much what people thought about me. So it's maybe that's why it's a little easier for me to talk about some of this stuff than other people. Yeah, but
I think that men just do a lot of things on autopilot. Um,
mm,
because whether you know it consciously or not, society interacts with men a certain kind of way. And whether they, again, society doesn't like to admit it, but they treat men as disposable items. If you ain't doing something for somebody and everybody, then apparently you ain't worth nothing. And so
mm.
constantly, fighting for purpose
yeah,
gets you in a situation where you build a lot of habits. And when you feel like you're not having a purpose or something, you start to spiral into a weird place. And that happens to men who, whether they served or not. It's just the world pretty much tells you if you're not doing X, Y, and Z for this one, that one, and the other one, then you ain't shit.
yeah. How's the old adage go? Idle hands are devil's playground. You know how it's said?
Yeah,
Mm.
you know. So having these conversations and helping other men understand that they're not in this by themselves and helping other military veterans understand you absolutely can turn back to your brothers. When you need to talk, they understand. That's another, I think, a male trait. Like, even though you all went through this stuff together, for some reason you think that your situation is so different than what your other brothers went through, and it's just not real. It's like you got to
But
get real about that.
for a lot of us with the GWAT era, the global war and terrorism era, like we're dealing with a lot of this stuff is more help is more available, but a lot of us are always like when we're around when it comes to we always say like talking to Vietnam guys and I always tell them, man, we didn't have shit compared to you guys, but what I found rather than those guys comparing the wars because they were two different wars, they're like you just had a different war and they've always like there was in my counseling group there was a couple of Vietnam vets. They're like it was a different war, it's a different thing that you had to deal with,
That's
but
true.
and they didn't look down on us because we weren't in a different kind of a situation. They instead they it was like we've already lived through this, let us help you.
And one of the things in relation to that is as well is I feel like in that era, Vietnam War or whatever, they kind of knew who the enemy was. You know what I'm saying? They had an
Mm-hmm.
idea what it was, what it looked like, the uniform, all these type of things. With the GWAT era, it was we didn't really have a identity for the said enemy. You know what I'm saying?
Anyone could be your enemy.
Yeah.
Correct.
Well, they weren't a uniform combatant. Like
That's what I
I
mean in
had the
terms of that.
Vietnam had the Viet Cong.
Exactly.
That was a big problem, but then again, they did actually get to fight a North Vietnamese army, so they did have a uniformed opponent.
So, I mean, we covered a lot of ground. Um, and sir, you are always welcome to come back and talk again. And what Doug and I are hoping to do is have some other subjects that are a little more focused as we grow this thing. And we'd love to have you back to talk again. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time and sharing what you're going through so that, other people can understand it. And, you know, hopefully, you will save some people or at least push some people in the right direction by telling them what you're going through.
I mean, I hope so. I keep finding myself in little interviews and stuff like that, and I just keep talking and I hope it's helping. Yeah. But I don't know. It's like I'm at the college, I'm going to be in a newsletter or something. I don't know how this keeps coming to be, but
I'm
maybe I'm
sure
doing
you
something
are
right to
helping.
help somebody.
I'm not even a combat veteran, and you helped me today think about some stuff differently. You've been through experiences and things that are useful for people to understand. So again, as we thank you for your service, and thank you for being on the show, man.
Yeah,
All right,
no problem. All right, guys.
Take it easy, man.
all right.
Thank you for joining us on Vet Talk Podcast. If today's story moved you, please subscribe and consider donating at vettalkpodcast.com. Every story is a service. Every voice is a legacy. To all our veterans, keep up the good fight and know that you are not alone. Until next time.